Welcome back, Gap Nation. I'm Marty Emno, Director of Operations and Communications, and this is part of our Gap on Zoom series. We're here today with Dan Schofield and Tony Regina, Assistant Communication Directors. And we have Jason Rivkin, the head trainer at FitGolf Performance Centers in Conshohocken on the line. He's earned just a little bit about Jason. He earned a degree and certification in athletic training at Penn State in 2012 and is a certified Titleist Performance Institute golf fitness professional. Since 2012, he's worked with hundreds of golfers on all different levels, helping them achieve better health and performance. Jason takes a scientific and objective approach to training the golfer by utilizing functional movement training, traditional fitness training, and golf swing technology to improve the physical issues behind the golfer's struggles. Jason, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so just before we get going here, how's everything going at FitGolf? How have you guys been able to manage and kind of survive this pandemic?
We're making the best of things. Actually, right now we're doing a lot of virtual training with clients, some one-on-one stuff, doing a lot of educational stuff like we're doing here today for other golf associations and PGA sections. So we're just trying to make the best of things. We're hanging in there, and hopefully we think probably be another month till we're really at full capacity, but we'll take our time and come back when everybody's ready.
Great. Well, so my first question is, I know a lot of clubs, obviously opened last week, last Friday in Pennsylvania, last Saturday in New Jersey. And a lot of the stipulations have been that clubs have put out that you basically walk from the parking lot to the tee. So how can somebody get loose and ready to swing in a 300-400 yard walk from the parking lot to the first tee?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, obviously a lot of people are used to going to the range and hitting a bunch of balls, but I think the best thing you can do is actually warm up right outside your car before you walk up to the first tee. Whether it be stretching, obviously we prefer a method of stretching called dynamic stretching. It's really important to take a couple of minutes before you approach the first tee and get your body temperature warmed up, get your movement patterns or your kind of golf swing movements ready to go. And there's some really effective ways you can do that in a short amount of time. There's actually some really, really cool research out that says that if you warm up properly before a round of golf, that you're gonna swing faster, you're gonna hit the ball further starting at the first tee. So if you're really looking for a solid day, you want to prioritize that warm up and get your body ready. And luckily, you don't need to hit 50 balls to do it. It just takes a couple minutes. So Marty, I could provide a warm up for your members. You can send out later, but there's some real stuff you could do. Just essentially right outside your car in the space of the parking lot. That would be really good.
How long does a stretch kind of affect your golf swing? Like, could somebody theoretically stretch at home, get in their car, drive 20 minutes to their club and get out, and that be okay? Or does it need to be better than that?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. If your goal is to warm up for a round of golf, stretching at home won't be effective. And simply what we're looking for in terms of stretching before a round of golf is more in terms of getting your body ready. And the best way to do that is increase your body temperature and just get your body ready for the movement. So if you're stretching at home, you stretch your hamstrings, you stretch your hips, there's benefit to that. And that kind of stretching we call static stretching. So you may, especially if you're doing it regularly and not just that day, that may help and increase muscle flexibility. But by the time you get in your car, you drive some people are driving 5 minutes, some people are driving upwards of 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. When you get to the club, you get out of the car, you're not going to have any benefits. You're not going to see any benefits from that stretching, at least in that round of golf. Are there long-term benefits? Of sure, there are. But if you're really pressed for time, I would say get in the car and warm up in the parking lot like we just talked about. That's going to be a more effective way of getting ready for golf as opposed to stretching at home.
How hard has this been on you emotionally, Jason? You're used to working with clients firsthand and in person. How difficult has the transition been to go to all virtual?
Yeah, actually, it's been tough. It's an adjustment for our trainers. It's an adjustment for our clients. But luckily, they've become very accustomed to the way that we assess everybody before a training session, whether it be in person or virtually. So they kind of know the testing that we're going through. They know how we structure a session. And then I think it's just important on our part to keep things as basic as possible. Not everybody's going to have a lot of equipment. So it takes some creativity, but creativity can get a little convoluted and get a little confusing. So we're really just trying to stick to the basics of assessment, body weight exercises, basic stretches, things like that. Enough that's going to keep them progressing, but also enough to keep them on track and again, encourage to continue.
I was just going to ask Jason, what are some examples for someone watching this who might not have an idea of what you guys do? What are some digital examples you guys have been using?
Well, I'm not sure if I understand your question clearly. Are you looking in terms of more the way we would structure an online session or something like that?
Yeah, so just give someone a snapshot of the services you would provide to a new customer.
Yeah, exactly. So if I was seeing someone new, we would put them through a functional movement screen, which if any golfers out there have worked with a TPI fitness professional, probably gone through. So I'll first want to see what their body movement's like that day, ask them to do some basic things, touch your toes, perform a deep squat, rotate your hips, rotate your shoulders, and let the results of that initial assessment, at least the assessment of that day, dictate kind of an exercise or a program prescription from that point. So the structured session of, especially if someone's coming in the first time, it's assess and then prescribe. And I'm going to prescribe them exercises based off of what they need. So for example, if someone comes in, you might have two different golfers. If I'm working with a golfer online who can't touch their toes and the other golfer who can touch their toes, obviously they're getting different types of exercises. So it's just important for us to kind of keep sight that every golfer is different. So we really put a lot of stock into the initial screen, the initial testing. And then from there, everything's customized. Not one golfer that we work with is going to be working on the same thing. There's no effective one-size-fits-all programs. So it's assess and prescribe. And then the follow-ups up there, we're assessing again. We're assessing the movement to make sure it improves. And if it did improve, we'll give them the next exercise progression, or maybe we'll move on to a different movement or a different subject altogether. So it's really a session-by-session basis, and whatever the golfer displays that day is what we'll work on for the next week or so.
What's the time frame to see in a typical setting? Obviously, this is not that, but in a typical setting, what's the time frame to see some improvement from a golfer? I mean, do they need 3 or 4 sessions, or is it as quickly as 1?
Well, it starts with what their goals are. So for example, if someone's coming in complaining of back stiffness and it's not a serious lower back issue, they complain of stiffness with golf, that may, depending on what they present, may only take 3 or 4 weeks to achieve. Now, someone comes in and their initial goal is to help improve their lower back health and they want to hit the ball 20 yards further. Well, then we're probably looking at 10 or more weeks. It just depends on the type of goal. So obviously the bigger goals are going to take a little bit longer, and it also depends on what the body shows us. So everybody is different and poses unique challenges. So it's hard to say, but generally speaking, for most golfers that we work with to achieve their goals, whether it be more distance, more consistency, less pain, we're looking at anywhere from generally 8 to 12 weeks. But with that being said, everybody's different.
I'm guessing everybody wants more distance.
Right? Even if it's not their primary objective, I've heard somebody say they're fine with how far they hit the ball.
Yeah. So somebody's gone cold turkey to the first tee. They put in their golf swing. Somehow they find the fairway 200 yards out there. What can they do between the tee and getting to their golf ball to kind of loosen up, for that next shot? Do you swing clubs? Do you do twisting exercises down the fairway? How can you help them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you hit your first ball and you hadn't warmed up, I might get in trouble with my peers saying this, but you'd almost be better off just getting your brain in the right mindset to hit golf. Now, if you really need to loosen up, I would focus when you approach your ball and get to the next shot. Focus on rotating your body, swinging your legs, turning your shoulders, swinging the club. And oftentimes, especially if you only have a few seconds, the best way to do that is just take some practice swings. Like I said, it would be much more beneficial if you took your 3 minutes before you walked out to the first tee to warm up. But within a round of golf, there probably isn't a heck of a lot you can do to improve your body at that point for that round of golf.
Interesting.
Let's say, just get yourself sharp mentally when you approach the ball. Try executing the movement you know you want or need to execute in that next shot. And that'll help a little bit priming your body. But the warm-up should really be done before you hit that first ball.
And three, I mean, how long does it take to get your body going in the parking lot?
You can get your body going effectively in a matter of 3 to 5 minutes, really. It does not take long. It can really put you in advantage, especially if you're competing, because we all know, as much as everybody would like to warm up and prepare their bodies, most don't. But the fact of the matter is it only takes a couple minutes. And I'd argue that 3 to 5 minutes of dynamic stretching is going to be more effective than hitting, anywhere from 20 to 50 shots on the range before a round of golf. So very important just to take the couple of minutes, and it really can help you get off to a good start.
So when you're doing your, I guess, ballistic stretching, right, is what they would call it?
Dynamic stretching.
Dynamic stretching.
Yeah.
Are you looking? You're looking at lower body, upper body. You're doing both. What kind of combination do you need to get going?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely should be doing both. When we're trying to put together a good warm up, we try to break down the components of the golf swing. So in the golf swing, there's hip rotation, there's upper body rotation, there's hinging, there's even some vertical movements such as a little bit of squatting, flexion, and extension. So we try to include all of those components of the golf swing into the warm up so the body's prepared to perform. So what we look at in terms of a warm up, we look for lower body, upper body, leg swings, forward and back, side to side, shoulder twist. We try to integrate some full body movements where you're squatting, coming up into a turn, something that would represent the downswing. We try to focus on creating a little bit of separation, right? So turning the shoulders without the hips and vice versa. Should include the shoulder joints in there, rotating or getting your rotator cuff warmed up. So it's really head to toe with a focus on the components of the golf swing.
And during a normal time when you can get to the range and hit balls and, everybody's there an hour before, you should do that before you hit any balls?
Yeah, definitely. If you're going to go out and hit some balls, you want to try to do that stretching, that warm up routine before you hit the range. That way you're primed and ready to go. A lot of people, they'll get to the range, they won't warm up, they'll hit a few bad shots, and whether they want to or not, they'll start tinkering with their swing, they'll start tinkering with their technique, establishing some bad habits for that round. So even before you go out and hit balls, you definitely want to get your body ready for it.
FitGolf's been a partner with Gap now for a long time, probably 6, 7, 8 years now. I mean, and I know you've seen quite a few Gap members. Just in general, is there one thing that you see that people come to FitGolf to need help with? Is it one body part, one part of their game? What do you see?
Generally speaking, I would say that most people that come in have no idea what's wrong with their bodies or what they actually need. Some people, for example, some people come in and when I say this, I'm thinking mostly about middle-aged men. They'll say, I'm really tight. I need to be more flexible. But then when we break it down in the assessment, we find out that, well, they're actually not that inflexible, right? They have good flexibility, and rather it's stability that they're lacking that makes them feel tight. And we see it the other way around too, where people say, no, I'm plenty flexible. But when we break down the components of where you need to be flexible in golf, they're not. So from a body perspective, and I think most people know that they don't know, right? And that's why they're here. They need help figuring out what they need to do to improve. Now, from a golf perspective, I would say the number one thing that people tell us that they want more of is consistency. And you may think it would be power, but it's actually consistency. Golfers get frustrated with their lack of consistency. It comes to ball flight, scoring, putting, whatever it may be. So that's definitely the most common issue that we hear when people come in.
What's a typical assessment? What's the timing on that? How long is that? And do you run the gamut with somebody when they get assessed?
Yeah, well, a lot of times people's first visit into us will be kind of a complimentary or initial introduction where we'll either do a quick movement screen or, movement test. We may put them on K-Vest, which I'm sure you guys have heard of, to just look at their range of motion in their golf swing. And if they choose to pursue it further, we'll go into what you would call Gauntlet, a 2-hour evaluation where we're really covering everything head to toe. not only in terms of assessing the joints and their movements, but also taking a look at their golf swing and really bridging the two, the body and the golf swing, to figure out where we need to spend most of our time to actually improve their swing. So that's a very important piece to us, because without the swing evaluation with KVAS, we use body track too. We're not going to be nearly as objective as if we did use it. And it's also a great way to establish baselines. So our full evaluation is 2 hours, and it's packed. I mean, there's no downtime. We're assessing functional movement. We go into orthopedic testing, where we measure range of motion. We do strength testing, and then to wrap it all up, we look at the golf swing and take a look at how many degrees of shoulder turn are they getting, where are their hips at impact, are they maintaining posture, are they sequencing well. And then what we'll be able to say after that is, all right, well, you have these, issues, biomechanical issues in your golf swing, and you have a lack of hip mobility, a lack of spine mobility, poor glute strength, whatever it is. Here's how it's connected, right? So we can tell that golfer at the end of the evaluation, if you improve your hip mobility, your pelvis position at impact is going to be better. And the beauty in that is we have ways to go back and remeasure just to make sure the exercise or the fitness intervention is working. Otherwise, we're kind of guessing, or if we're fortunate enough to working with a golf professional, we get some feedback there. But it really makes it, when we say golf specific, it really makes it golf specific.
So Jason, tell people where they can find you.
So you can find us at fitgolf.com. We're a national franchise, so there's pages for all of our locations there, but the main one is really focused on our location here at Conshohocken. We're on Instagram at FitGolf National, and Facebook at FitGolf Performance Centers.
And make sure you sign up for the GAP, the Post, formerly known as the E-Revision, where we have tips from FitGolf every first and third Tuesday of the month. So Jason, thanks for some time today. Really appreciate it. Thanks for getting us loose in the parking lot. Hopefully Tony remembers to put the car in park before he gets behind it. That's always helpful. So for Dan Schofield, Tony Regina, and Jason Rivkin, this is Marty Imino saying thanks. We'll see you next time here on Gap on Zoom.